Morning, everyone. Thank you all for joining us. Welcome to the Spring and United Utilities Biopolymers in the Circular Economy, or BICE for short, End of Waste workshop. I'm Ellis Collins. I'm a knowledge transfer lead at Spring Innovation, and I've been working alongside United Utilities on the BICE project to support with knowledge transfer and dissemination. So what's the purpose of today? Today's session will focus on the challenges and opportunities associated with achieving end-of-waste status for biopolymers, and we'll look at how this could support a more circular approach to resource recovery within the water sector and potentially beyond, but yeah, not going to be too ambitious with that. End-of-waste status is a challenge faced by many projects and organisations across the sector and outside of the sector as well. For those of you who aren't familiar with end-of-waste as a concept, a brief introduction and explainer will come shortly in this workshop. And with your help today, we're hoping to identify key barriers, assess sector readiness, and explore practical pathways forwards for achieving end-of-waste status. And as I've said earlier, I've mentioned outside of the sector a little bit. Although we're thinking about biopolymers today, if you have any experience or examples on end-of-waste challenges, solutions, or achieving end-of-waste status from other projects, sectors, or products, then please share them. It's really good to learn from other areas of expertise and bring that knowledge into the water sector. So just a quick intro about Spring for those of you who aren't familiar with us. Spring is the Innovation Centre of Excellence for the UK and Ireland water sector. We help water companies identify where innovation is needed, connect water companies with solution providers, and share learnings from innovation projects whilst they are happening. Our goal of this is to accelerate adoption and make sure innovation doesn't stay isolated within individual projects. The aim of this is removing duplication and helping projects move beyond successful trials towards wider sector adoption. And what this actually looks like is shown on this slide here. We bookend the Ofwat Innovation Fund. So we run bid collaboration sessions to create partnerships between water companies for future Ofwat bids. We have a sector coordination service that looks at a specific challenge or topic area within the sector, and then produce a report on all available intelligence to hopefully identify pathways forwards. We have a brokerage service, which is where we connect the supply chain and innovators to water companies, but only around key innovation areas for the water companies. And lastly, we have a knowledge transfer service, which is where team members such as myself will embed into project teams such as this BICE one to extract insights and learnings and facilitate knowledge sharing both from the project to the rest of the sector, but also to bring knowledge into the project through interventions such as this workshop today. And then all of this intelligence on these Ofwat projects that we embed into is stored on our Spring platform, which is a free platform for everyone to join. And a link to this will be put in the chat towards the end of this session if anyone wanted to go and have a look at it. You'll need to make an account, but as I say, it's pretty quick to sign up and it's free for everyone to do so. So just looking at today's session, we'll start off with a very short project overview on the BICE project from Francesca McKendrick from United Utilities. We'll then delve into some information on end-of-waste legislation and progress made so far with Fiona Henderson from Glasgow Caledonian University. After that, Olaf van der Kolk from Aqua Minerals will then provide us with a bit of an international perspective on end-of-waste status and some of the work he's done in the Netherlands. Following that, there's a true or false session. This isn't a test, it's just a bit of fun to try and get everyone into the sort of mindset of end-of-waste in this workshop. And then finally, we'll move on to a Miro board, which a link will be put in the chat when we get to that section. And this is where it becomes a bit more interactive and we can hear your thoughts and perspectives. So that's everything from me for now. I'll now pass over to Francesca from United Utilities.
Thanks, Alice. Yeah, so I don't know if we get the next slide there.
Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, brilliant. Okay, so yeah, hi everyone. My name is Francesca and I am the project manager for the Biopolymers project at United Utilities. So I think a lot of you on this call might already be familiar with the BICE project, but for those of you who aren't, or maybe just want a bit of a refresher, I'll do a very quick overview of what the project's all about. So Biopolymers in the Circular Economy, or BICE, is our £6.8 million Ofwat funded innovation project that's being led by United Utilities, but has partnered with a number of different companies from across the water industry and across the supply chain as well. You can see the steering group partners on the slide there. So this was part of the Water Breakthrough 3 challenge as part of the Ofwat Innovation Fund, and is a 4-year project. So we started back in 2023 and will be running until October 2027. And the project is all about exploring the production, characterization and application of biopolymers from wastewater and sludge. So really looking at the end-to-end process of, firstly, how can we recover biopolymers from our wastes? And then what's actually in those biopolymers, what do they look like, how do they behave, and how can we use them? And then looking at the regulatory challenges associated with that as well, such as end of waste. So yeah, it's led by us at UU, but a partnership of really kind of globally positioned end users that are allowing us to really progress in this project. Some of you on the call may be familiar with the Royal Society of Chemistry's Polymers and Liquid Formulations paper, which is on the screen there. That's really kind of positioned this project as well and has really provided the basis of why it's so important that we address resource recovery and replacement of traditional fossil fuel derived polymers with more sustainable biopolymers, of which these will hopefully become a source of those. So it's really customer focused goal for us in the water industry, but there are wider benefits to doing this as well, supporting net zero ambitions and achieving a circular economy, improving our own downstream treatment efficiency, but also opening up new markets and hopefully reducing other industries' reliance on fossil fuel derived polymers and the carbon impacts associated with that as well. So we also have some advisory members within the project as well who don't pay into the project but are available for consultation. And I think we have a few of our advisory members on the call today. So thank you very much for joining us. I think this is exactly the kind of thing that we need to lean on our advisory members for. I won't go into an update in terms of where we're up to really in the project in detail, but we are sort of over halfway through and have recovered our biopolymers and kind of proved that the concept works. Sorry, just getting quite a bit background noise there. Thanks. And so now we're really looking at the next steps in the project and how can we use those biopolymers that we've recovered. And I think that's really where we'll start to lean more on our advisory members as well. So that's a bit about what the project is. And then just on the next slide, a little bit more about what it involves. So we're split up into 8 work packages that looks across the end-to-end process, like I mentioned before. So our first 2 work packages really looking at how can we recover and extract those biopolymers. We focused in this project really on 2 specific biopolymers. Firstly, Calmira, which is like a gum-based biopolymer that's made from extracellular polymeric substance, EPS, which is the naturally occurring polymers that are produced by bacteria in wastewater. So using Haskining's Calmira extraction process, we're able to recover those biopolymers. And then secondly, using the salvation process to firstly extract cellulose from our wastewater and turn that into glucose through a hydrolysis process. Then we've got GCU leading on our biopolymer characterization. We're looking across work packages 4, 5 and 6 at different ways we can apply those in the water industry, within agriculture, and also emerging opportunities. And really that's what the value triangle on the slide is saying, is that this project is really trying to move us up that value triangle and go from the really kind of fast return options that we know we can achieve as an industry to those slightly harder markets to enter. And that will be more challenging, but we hope to make progress up that triangle as we move through the project. And then lastly, those kind of 2 more strategic work packages about how we implement those, the carbon, social value and commercialization implications of recovering biopolymers, and then end of waste and other regulatory challenges, which is hopefully what we're going to be able to discuss here. So I think that's it really from me, just a very quick update on the project. And am I handing back to you now, Ellis, or over to Fiona?
Thanks, Francesca. Yeah, it will now be over to Fiona. There you go. There's your first slide, Fiona.
Thanks, Alice. Thanks, Francesca. So my name is Fiona Henderson, and I'm a researcher from Glasgow Caledonian University, and I'm leading work package 8, which is the end of waste work package. So today I was asked to just quickly define end of waste in case anyone's unclear what it is. So end of waste is a legal classification that marks the exact moment a recycled or recovered material stops being treated as waste and becomes a fully recognized product or secondary raw material. So once this status is achieved, the material is no longer subject to strict waste management regulations and can be freely traded on the market. So because of that, we have some quite strict legislation around it. And here I've included Article 6 of the Waste Framework Directive, which states that waste which has undergone a recycling or other recovery operation is considered to have ceased being waste if all the following conditions are met. So there's these 4 criteria. Firstly, that the substance or object is to be used for a specific purpose. So you need to know what you're going to do with it, or the product or application at the end of it. A market or demand exists for such a substance or object. So you have to determine the commercial potential of the product. The substance or object fulfills the technical requirements for the specific purposes and meets existing legislation and standards applicable to the product. And of course, that the use of the substance or object will not lead to overall adverse environmental or human health impacts. Next slide, please. Now, as Francesca said, we've done this sort of, we've recovered some of the materials. We're in the sort of characterization process, and we're working on the samples just now. And in Work Package 8, we're supporting the pathways to market by exploring the compliance and regulatory requirements. Now, to do that, we also need to know what products or applications we're going to do. So we're still in that kind of phase. And because we've yet to finalize and prioritize the potential applications of the recovered glucose and Chimera, we can't yet comment on which pathways to end of waste we'll explore in greater detail. Each pathway has certain limitations, and the feasibility pathways also differ, but all have produced some learning so far anyway, which we will share with the sector towards the end of the project, and we expect a lot more learning to come out of it. And part of this process is to work closely with Aqua Minerals and Olaf and his team, and he's got a lot of experience on this, and I'm going to pass over to him now to give you a bit more insight of end of waste pathways. Thank you.
Thank you, Fiona. My name is Olaf van der Kolk from Aqua Minerals. In the Netherlands, we bring residuals for our shareholders, water entities, to the market. And from that experience, we have also experience with end of waste, and I have 3 sheets that will give you some info on that. First of all, there are various routes to end of waste, and 2 I would like to mention, but you can almost forget them again. That's through the European Commission or through the national governments, that they make end of waste criteria, and if you comply with them, you get the end of waste status automatically, more or less. And for instance, on European level, that has been done for and made for plastics and metal scrap. But it's not the case for the materials we are discussing today. And then you have 2 options: a self-declaration and going through legal offices of the government and get the formal statement. Let's see if this works. Yes. These are examples of what we've done in the Netherlands. I won't go through all of them, but as you can see, most of them are done by self-declaration. That's the less time-consuming route. I'll come back to that later. The first one was TrueVite. We started that about 8 years ago, and it took us 7 years to get this formal end-of-waste status. So that gives you an idea how time-consuming that is. So we learned a lot. First of all, it takes a lot of time, and always more than you would like it to take. It also costs a lot of money because it takes a lot of analysis, and it's very expensive. It takes a very long time, as I said, 7 years, because of government, when governments are involved. And why is that? They are very risk averse. Like Fiona's just shown that, for instance, the material must be safe for the environment, for humans, for animals. But the question is, how do you determine that? And when is safe enough, good enough? There's no really standard how to assess that. So it's in the end, it's a decision that the government needs to make if you go through that formal route, and they are very reluctant to do so, and they keep on asking questions about how safe stuff is. also something we've encountered. It's really difficult to find a lab to do the analysis. Most analysis and standard procedures are made for standard materials, and what we are dealing with are often new recovered materials. So it's not standardized, and it's difficult to find a standard lab. There is no universal end of waste. So if you have an end of waste status for one route and you find a new one, you need to go through the whole dossier again and look for the exposure routes and do it all again. And end of waste regulation is not really flexible. So all the strict rules you need to follow, and again, it takes a lot of time, and new ones take new analysis again. So self-declaration is much faster, much flexible. So why don't we always choose that? The difference is, of course, if you get a legal formal statement, it's end of waste, it gives you a lot more security than when you self-declare that. We've been dealing with this for a couple of years now, and the end of waste status based on self-declaration was checked a lot of times by local governments, by environmental agencies, and it was never challenged. So they passed through, and it's still applicable. Is to really start early on with the end of waste strategy. So will you go for self-declaration, go for legal approval? Will you start with an easy route? So if you have to talk about glucose or Calmera, will you go for the most difficult, most challenging route, and then the next routes are easier to obtain end of waste status? Or will you go the other way around for the easy ones and then through add-ons get a more difficult end of waste status, and start as easy as you can with a dossier with analysis. Let's see. So also a choice is, will you go for the most promising ones, or where enough info is already available? That will be the smartest thing to do. And start with maybe for, let's say glucose finds route A, you get a formal end of waste status for that one, and all the new ones you make a self-declaration, so that it gives you the most flexible pathway in the future. The risk assessment, assuming you know the application, starts with determining the exposure routes. So when is there a problem for humans, for animals, for the environment in general? You make an analysis plan, again, discussing it also with laboratory, because they don't have fixed and analysis available, contracting them, do representative sampling, different seasons. Again, we are talking about materials that are developing. So you really need to do the sampling and the analysis on materials that you will be making in the future. Repeat and do it over again to really know what you're talking about in terms of the material itself. This was really quickly. Again, if you have questions, you can always contact us. One of my colleagues is also online, Emma van Dobben. She has done these dossiers I was just mentioning before. And I'll stop my presentation now.
Thanks for that. I appreciate all of the presenters so far. Next we are now on to just the true or false section. And again, this isn't a test. I'm not trying to catch anyone out. I just thought it might be a bit of a fun activity. If you think it's true, you can maybe just give like a thumbs up reaction, or you can write your answer in the chat. But the first one, I've put biopolymers recovered from wastewater will achieve end of waste status if they meet technical quality standards. What do you all think on that one? That is actually false. Quality is only one part of the criteria. To achieve end of waste status, there also needs to be a clear and certain use, a market or demand, an assurance that it will not cause harm to the environment or human health. Next one. Consistency of biopolymer quality is important for achieving end of waste status. Yeah, Ola? I think you're on mute.
I was thumbs up, wrong button.
Oh, no worries. Thanks. Seen a few thumbs up, a few trues in the chat. Yes, this one is true. The reason for that is regulators and end users need confidence that the material is reliable and predictable. Variability from wastewater sources, as an example, could be a key barrier. Next one. End of waste is a one-time decision. Once achieved, the challenge is complete. Seeing a few shaking heads on the camera. Yeah, you were right, anyone who was shaking their head and putting false in the chat. The reason for it being false is even after end of waste status is achieved, conditions may apply, they probably will. Ongoing compliance is needed, and market acceptance is always going to matter. Next one I have. Collaboration across organisations is important for achieving end of waste for biopolymers. Yeah, seeing a few thumbs up and a few nods. That one is true. Achieving end of waste needs a combination of capabilities, evidence, and alignment that mostly would come from multiple organisations rather than it all sort of sitting on one person or place. The sector, as in the water sector, is ready today to achieve end of waste status for biopolymers at scale. Yeah, seeing a few shaking heads. False in the chat. That is false. There's really strong progress, but scaling still requires greater consistency, stronger markets, clearer pathways from people such as regulators, and increased confidence across stakeholders and the sector. Right, that was the last one. Thank you for taking part in that. So we're now going to move over to the Miro board. You might be able to click the link on this presentation. If not, my colleague Lane has just put it in the chat. And I'll give you all a couple minutes just to make sure that we can get over to that Miro board, because I know sometimes people have access issues. Cool. All right. Seems like most people are over there. So I will stop sharing this presentation and then, yeah, I'll share the Miro board. Right, cool. So yeah, seems like you've all made it over. We are going to start on activity A. And for this activity, I wanted to look into what do you all personally see as the key barriers for achieving end of waste status? And again, we're thinking about biopolymers today, but if you've got any other barriers that you've encountered on other projects or products or examples, then feel free to add those in. I've given some example barriers and then some examples within those barriers. You can either add a post-it note to that category saying that you agree that that's a key barrier, or you can give some examples for this. What I'll do, I'll let you all click and drag a note from these sticky stacks into the boxes, and then we can call some of them out and just have a quick chat about them. But yeah, I'll give you a couple of minutes just to get on with that. There's loads of good ones coming in here. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate that. There's loads that I hadn't even thought of. Again, Phil, you don't have to, but if anyone on the BICE team finds any of these interesting or wanted to speak to any of them, then yeah, feel free to like pop your hand up or just start chatting. Or yeah, if not, obviously I will be producing sort of a report slash outcomes from this workshop, so they'll all be considered anyway. But yeah, or if anyone in the audience wanted to speak to anything you put on the board, feel free to do so. I do want this to be as interactive as possible. Yeah, Francesca?
Thanks, Alice. No, I think it's really interesting seeing some of the stuff that's on here, like from a water industry, like I guess perspective, we're quite familiar with the regulatory challenges and some of the technical challenges from a sampling and analysis perspective, because we've lived those as we've gone through the trial. I think it's interesting some of the commercial barriers, and I don't know whether anybody from our advisory members wants to elaborate on anything maybe they've put on. I think it's an interesting perspective to see what the other side of the barriers kind of look like in terms of if we've produced something, what would be a barrier to kind of adopting that or taking that into a new market, maybe, if anybody has anything.
I can see a hand up somewhere. I can't see who it is. Sorry, because
Oh,
I'm
it's
sharing my
Olaf.
screen.
Olaf's got
Oh,
his hand up.
yeah, feel free. Go ahead.
Yeah, actually, not really answering your question, but what I also see and realize is that we gathered a lot of data on both glucose and Calmera because of the application side. So we want to make it applicable for the use, but end of waste requires another kind of data on safety, on health issues. So yeah, that's indeed something we really need to look into if we gathered everything we needed. Maybe Fiona knows. I know we did some analysis on that, but I don't know if it's complete. So it's a different view. So does something work in its application? Is there a market for it? Yes, but second question, is it safe and in terms of the end of waste criteria?
Yeah, David.
Yeah, thanks, Alice. Yeah, I just wanted to unpack a couple I'd put on in the kind of pink post-its. So one in commercial, one in perception. So the commercial one is around how much feedstock do you need to make how much product? And on an individual works basis, no matter how good the recovery technology is, you may just simply not have enough of the recovered resource for anybody to be remotely interested in it. So going down the end of waste route for a single process, single site may be totally unfeasible under kind of foreseeable commercial scenarios. So that speaks to the earlier point around collaboration, materials coming from multiple sites into recovery hubs to allow that kind of commercial case to be built out, potentially, depending on the resource that's being recovered. And then the perception point there is around specifically around wastewater and sludge as feedstocks, because those negative perceptions sit across multiple categories, and I include the regulators, the environmental regulators, in that comment. And that can be a bit of a challenge. So for struvite, I'm amazed it took you 7 years, Olaf. I think it was only 2 years in the UK, the example. But depending on the technique that you're using to recover, you leave a lot of those kind of challenging contaminants behind. So some recovered resources should be able to really kind of cut through that perception issue. I'd put CO2 in that same basket once it's gone through a membrane. I don't know why anybody's worrying about it. It shouldn't really matter where it's come from. So yeah, just wanted to articulate a couple of those. Thanks, Alice.
Thanks for that. Appreciate you getting involved. Did anyone want to talk back to that point, or are we happy to move on? Cool. All right. I think it looks like the responses have mostly stopped to this area, but yeah, thank you so much. There's loads on there. Sometimes we run workshops like these, and people don't contribute that much. So yeah, really appreciate everyone involved. We're now going to scroll over to the right on activity B, which is assessing sector readiness for this. Just as the first part of the chart, of the task, sorry, not the chart, I've made a little scale as to how ready people think the water sector is for achieving end of waste status for biopolymers, but also if you've got other examples or other projects you've worked on, feel free to sort of think of that. And the way I thought this could work is if you just sort of like click and drag a sticky note onto the scale of where you think the sector is, that'll be a good indication. See a lot sort of coming in like midway around the scale, which yeah, it's good because at least it doesn't mean that we're really not ready for it. But yeah, it was always assuming there'd be a bit more work to do on this. I think there's still a couple of people contributed to that, so I'll give you another minute or two before we move on to the next part. But yeah, thanks again, everyone. Appreciate it.
And thanks to the people that are putting a little explanation of why they think that. I think that's really useful. To know why you chose that point on the scale is really helpful. So thank you for that.
That's great. Thanks, everyone. And yeah, as Fiona said, it's really nice to have some of those explanations on there because that can inform sort of future work on this. So you'll now see two boxes below, which is still related to assessing readiness. First one in the green box is sticky stacks for what things we think are going well and is already in place. So what capabilities, evidence, conditions, etc., are already in place to support gaining end of waste status for biopolymers. I've added a few sort of examples in the bit of text below just to inspire you, but yeah, feel free to repeat those in there, or I'm sure a lot of you have got better or different ones to buy examples. So we'll start off with that green box. I can see some of you have moved over to the next part already. That's great. Feel free to add to that. I suppose actually because people have started adding to it already, the next part ties into this and it's what's missing or still needed to gain or support end of waste status for biopolymers. So yeah, I'll give you a few minutes to do that, and then I think we could maybe chat to some of the sticky notes that pop into them just to expand on them a little bit. So in this first box, I can see there's a few positive ones about regulators. So people are saying they think regulators are open, but want to see a bit more evidence. There's been some good early engagement with regulators. I don't know if anyone has any examples or wanted to expand on that, or I could move on to some of the other notes. Cool. All right, no worries. The other ones I can see that are looking good is there's a fair few around data. So from the pilot plants on the BICE project, but also people saying there's test data from the use case in the Netherlands, which yeah, would really help. I don't know if there's anything to expand on about that test data, like what sort of things you've got, what sort of things you've been seeing.
I think a lot of it depends on the markets that we get. So we've got loads of samples now from our pilot plants that we ran, which is really positive. So we can kind of do what we need to do with those, but it is very much driven by where we want to go with the biopolymers. But we're getting some early indications of kind of yields that we've met and product quality, which is really good, that I think is going to help drive some of those discussions around where we go with them. So that early data is going to be really useful, but still quite a lot to do in that space.
Oh, yeah, thanks. That makes sense. Emma, I can see you've got your hand up.
Yes, hello, everyone. Some people might know me already and others not. I also work for Aqua Minerals. And I had a discussion with some governmental institutions the other day. And actually what they said is, please don't make it too complicated. So that was very nice that it came from the government. And I think that might be feeling slightly controversial, but very important also. So I want to mention it here as well, that there's so much to research, but we should also think like, how can we keep it practical and to not make it too complicated for ourselves more than necessary. So thank you. That's a short note.
Yeah, that's all right. Thanks a lot. Do you have sort of any ways that you can think of to not make it too complicated? Sort of like any frameworks or like boundaries you could think to keep it as simple as possible?
Yeah, I think using or choosing a methodology is very useful. So to maybe, to come together with a few people to think about it, like what methodology do we want to use? I think especially for criteria 4, so overall no adverse risks for human and environment, and to think, okay, what do we want to do, and then stick to that, because it's very temptative to search for further and research more and continue this search. And of course, it kind of needs to be enough, but then stick to that methodology. And the question, like with methodology, I think that's too much into the detail for now. Yeah, so this is my like very brief answer for now.
That's great. Yeah, thanks a lot. I appreciate you contributing, and yeah, thanks for expanding on it. Is there anything else to this first green box anyone has added that they'll want to expand on, or if not, we can move over to the next one. Cool. All right. Well, yeah, I can see there's loads of really nice ideas coming into this next box already, which is the sort of the missing evidence, what's still needed, evidence gaps, guidance, etc. Haven't had time to properly read through these yet, so I will just skim them now. But again, if anyone's added anything into here that you'd like to explain or expand on, please feel free to either put your hand up or just, yeah, go ahead and have a little discussion about it.
Oh, hi, Alice. Richard here. I've put a couple on there, but I'm not sure they're really end of waste. Very specific. They drive the need for end of waste a bit more. So it's things like the cost, the estimated cost for building a production hub within the UK based production hub, and also the price. What would be the sale price for the biopolymers as well? So all very much driving the commercial picture that will drive the if you like, the need for end of waste and the want, if you like, to achieve end of waste status. So that a couple of what I've put up there. Also, there's a couple of other things that I've put up there about the outcomes from the Cranfield and Yara trials, which hopefully will be with us in the next 12 months. So we've got an indication then of what market size there is, what the opportunity is there, and that's really key. That if we can understand the agricultural piece, that's one bit, and that should support or kind of align to what's already been seen in the Netherlands. And I see, Martijn, you've got your hand up there. But it's a case of so we should be able to kind of prove what's happened on a larger scale. But it's also around any fears maybe that people have about diffuse pollution, so leaching and so on, of materials through the soil. That's also something that Cranfield are looking at within their greenhouse trials as well. So we'll get a good understanding of that. And if we can do that for the agricultural applications, it'd be great to understand what we need to do testing wise for other applications, because then we can have a look at whether that's achievable within this project. Okay, so I'm using agriculture as the main example because it's one that we understand a bit more. I'm not saying we know what's going to happen there, but we certainly understand it because of the work we already do in the water industry and the transfer of biosolids from wastewater treatment through to agriculture. So we've got a better understanding, if you like, of that sector. It'd be great if we understood what kind of tests need to be done to open the door up to other sectors as well.
Thanks for that, Richard. I can see someone else got their hand up, but I can't see who. Sorry, so feel free to speak.
It's Martijn.
I think it's my hand. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
I think. Yeah. I'm Martijn Beauvais from Camera. I think it's very relevant that especially for the agricultural markets for Camera, which has already a CE marking as a soil improver, means basically that UK production sites, I've been talking about UK here, can actually put it on the market in the European Union market, if they collaborate with Camera Sales and Services or the Camera Cooperative, because they are the sellers in the European Union. So there's already a lot of work done, which can be quite easily used by a UK production site. This is the soil improving mark, CE mark, gives automatically end of waste status, but it should always be accompanied with actual risk data, so data on the drug residues and PFAS, etc., etc., etc. But basically, from the 4 criteria which is in end of waste, 3 of them are already covered by the CE marking, which is a great step forward. So for that, it's quite easier. I just want to mention this, not to advertise on Camera Sales and Services, but it's the way to go.
I agree, Martijn. We need to use all of the knowledge and experience that you guys have already in that particular sector, and then help expand out from there. So yeah, I absolutely agree that it's, you've got other things that you've done with it was Delft, isn't it, with University of Delft as well, where you're looking at other applications for the biopolymers, whether it's in street furniture or in building materials and so on. So anything, oh yeah, there's the fire retardant application, isn't it, that side of things as well. So lots of work has been done already. So we shouldn't think, when you're looking at the red box, you shouldn't think that we're starting from scratch. There is a lot of work that's been done over with the European Commission and so on within this space that we need to take on board. And maybe it does need to be altered. Maybe we need to do a bit more work to align to the UK requirements. But we're not starting from scratch. This isn't necessarily a brand new thing that we're doing. Just keep that in mind that, you know, if there are things that we want to address, let's ask the question of the Netherlands first and see whether it's been done already, and then we can go from there.
Thank you both. Appreciate your contributions. I can see Jill. Is it you that's got your hand up?
Yeah, it was just a quick question for Martin, really. So, as part of the Biopolymers project, we've used different feed sludges, so not just Nereda sludge. Would that have any impact in potentially selling it in the European market if it's got a slightly different makeup, or as long as it's been through the Chimera process, would it qualify? That makes sense.
Was that one from our time, was it, Jill?
Yeah.
So you're talking about export, aren't you?
Yeah.
Essentially.
Yeah. I know that would be like.
Yeah. So, Martin, do you see there being any issues with regards to the export from the UK for use of material elsewhere in the world? Is where that question's going. I think you've had a bit of experience with this yourselves going to South America, haven't you, with Chimera? So, are there any kind of key things that you can think of off the top of your head that, you know, we need to overcome with respect to that?
At this stage, not directly. So we have to dive deeper into that aspect. But it's I think it's a workable route. But you have to really set it up like the typical how CE marked products are transferred across the continent, basically from UK to European continent. We have to look more in depth to that. And even then, you need to have at least the basic data on all the microcontaminants, the PFAS, the pathogens, etc., etc., etc. So the basic package always should have that data before sending it as a CE marked product. And even it might take a bit more, but that is really we have to look for in the project maybe or outside the project.
When you've been dealing with South America, Martin, and maybe this one you have to take away, is it a case of they have their own end of waste status for the Chimera product elsewhere in the world? So
I think we did not send it to South America, but maybe what happened in the past was as a customer, I think it was Copper, who bought the raw material from us, made their own formulation, and sent that formulation to South America on their account.
Okay, got you.
So, yeah.
Thanks, everyone. I can also see, feel free if you don't want to expand on them, David, but I can see you've put quite a lot of notes onto the board. Is there anything in there that you would want to add sort of any context to, or any questions for anyone who might be in the audience?
Did any catch your eye particularly, Alice?
The pushing DEFRA one, I feel like that's fairly self-explanatory, but that did catch my eye a little bit because, yeah, I feel like regulators has popped up quite a lot sort of through this workshop. And then the UK regulators, I don't know if it's you to put that one, but want to see how the Dutch data would work.
Yeah, so I'm sure folk on the call are aware that DEFRA are consulting on a new framework for UK fertilizers at the moment. Unfortunately, that's at the moment, in my view, spectacularly unambitious. So in principle, it looks very similar to the EU fertilizing product regs, which is what gives colleagues in the Netherlands this CE status on the that particular application. But at the moment, it's not looking like we're going to advance that quickly. So if there's an opportunity to kind of nudge DEFRA along with their thinking, so the data from this project could be really helpful in encouraging that kind of strategic move. And then the one underneath on potential UK regular expectations. So fantastic, we've got a fantastic evidence base from the Netherlands. But if I were a regulator, I would want to understand how that evidence shows that the product is separate from the feedstock, which helps to overcome those the real and perceived quality issues. Because if we can't do that, then we're going to have to do a load of sampling and testing on our own recovered resources to show that in our particular application, there is the product is of equal quality to what we're seeing in the Netherlands. So potentially a little kind of gap there, that another evidence gap that we might need to fill.
Thanks for that. Appreciate that. That's a really good point. Also, although like you say, it is a bit of an evidence gap, there's almost potentially a pathway forwards with the data from the Netherlands. So yeah, thanks for bringing that up. Okay, now let's move on to activity C, which is looking at pathways forwards. So thinking back to barriers and other missing support identified in previous tasks, just having a little think about what would help overcome them. And I've categorized this into 3 different boxes here. So the first one is what actions could help improve end of waste readiness or status for biopolymers. An example of that is establish common product specifications. Next underneath is what evidence, data or guidance is still needed to support end of waste readiness for biopolymers. And then the last one is kind of split into 2 a little bit, but it's relating to people that should be involved. So who should be involved is the orange post-it, but then who should actually take the lead in pushing for end of waste status. So as an example, someone who could be involved is a regulator, but then someone who should be like taking the lead and pushing for it could be the owner of material or like a technology provider involved. So yeah, feel free to ask any questions if you need that explained again, but if not, there's some sticky stacks, so we could start adding some thoughts to this part of the board. I can see in the first part, someone has said advertise to overcome negative public perception, which I agree that's a really good idea. How much of an issue do we think public perception is for things like this? Is it really bad, or is it something that like a few people are shouting loudly about?
I'm happy to give a perspective about this. I think it depends. I think we can either make a big fuss about it or not. So if we kind of reflect on the media fuss around sludge to land that was last year, that's kind of gone silent again. It was a flash in the pan, a bit of an issue. It will undoubtedly come back round again. So it's probably almost incumbent on us as a community to promote the positive messages here in terms of resource recovery. And I'm thinking particularly of things like CO2 and struvite, which should be totally uncontroversial in relatively high value applications or sensitive applications, because they're very divorced from the feedstocks. But inevitably there are going to be those who wish to kind of play devil's advocate because of the origins of the input materials.
Yeah, that's a good point. Thank you. Sorry, just trying to flick through some other ones. But yeah, if anyone else has had anything that they wanted to speak about, feel free to go ahead before I call some out. So I can see one actually again in the first section that says, can already decide on methodology which substances to measure that have no norm. There's a bit more to it, but then there's a part at the bottom that says can use knowledge from NI, which I assume means Northern Ireland. Would anyone on the call be able to expand on what that knowledge is and what has sort of happened in Northern Ireland already?
Hi, this comment was from me, from Emma, and I meant the Netherlands. Sorry.
Oh, sorry, it's an L. Sorry.
That
makes sense.
It's a Dutch shortens, but I understand it doesn't translate. So from the water boards in the Netherlands, I mean, they've already done a lot of measurements and already made a list on what substances to measure. And I think Francesca, that they're already introduced, but they're a bit further now, so it might be interesting to talk to them again.
That makes sense. Thanks a lot for that. That was a silly mistake on my part. I was just wondering if something happened in Ireland that I wasn't aware of, but I'm just not reading properly. It's a Monday.
Oh, that's all right.
Cool. All right. Does anyone else have any that they want to speak to? Because I can see that the contributions have started slowing down now. If not, we can move on to the final section of the workshop. I'll just wait for the last few responses to come in because there's some really valuable stuff on here. Give you another couple of minutes and then we can move on. But yeah, thanks everyone so far.
Sorry, Alice, just a question for Fiona, really. Fiona, what's going on the board here? Is this helping you with what you need to do in work package A? Are you getting some of the answers you're looking for? Because ultimately, work package A, the end of waste work package, you're looking to create kind of quite detailed roadmaps to give everybody an understanding. We never said in the project that we'd achieve end of waste status. Just want to be dead clear on that. But what we did say we'd do is create some rather detailed roadmaps to help people move forward with end of waste. So at the end of this project, because all projects come to an end at some stage, people can pick this information up and run with it. And it might be us in another project. Who knows? So, we might do it, but other people might pick it up as well and want to go down the end of waste route for biopolymers. I suppose, are you getting what you need? Is there anything that you're looking for in addition to this? Just to put you on the spot a bit, Fiona, and you're gonna.
Thanks for that, Richard.
Right.
No, it is really useful. A lot. there's quite a bit of it that we could possibly have expected to see. But I think it just adds weight to the sort of areas that we need to focus on and emphasize in our reporting and our pathways and things. So where there's like issues around regulation, we want to actually say something to encourage reflection amongst policymakers on that. But I also thought one of the things that's kind of striking me, and it's possibly maybe the way we're just talking about things here, is that there's not been a mention of how compelling recovering resources is and how that compulsion will continue to grow, that we can't afford not to recover resources. So there's something about kind of the regulators actually engaging with what will become essential as you know, just as the decades pass. Really, we can't not recover resources, so the process has to be more user friendly. And in terms of hearts and minds of society, people are quite disconnected from their waste, and they're very quick to complain about how that waste is managed or not in their eyes. But what they're failing to understand is that we do need to recover that, and we do need it to talk about it as a product of all of us and as a social issue. So that social issue and stuff discussion is still to emerge, and it's maybe not for today because today's quite technical, but it's something quite interesting around risk perception. But no, this is really useful, and it's been great to hear a little bit more about Chimera, and I didn't know about South America and that, so that's good. I'll find out a little bit more about that. So thanks for this.
I just think, just to sort of spring to mind, I don't know where it goes on this on your charts and so on, Alice, but it's around the timescales for applying for end of waste. And how much effort and time we have to put in. And if you could get into a position, I think all of the work that Fiona and the team are doing will hopefully head towards this. It'll reduce the time that's required for reviews and so on, and actually working through the regulatory position, because it's not that anybody's doing anything wrong. It's all everyone's doing the right things. It's just, can we make it more efficient and get to an end use faster?
I think that's quite a good point. I wonder if like maybe something like that, I could just pop it into the first box of like what actions are needed. I could just put like a timescales and then expand on it. But yeah, thanks for that, Richard.
It's not just sorry, Alice, just to get that right. It's not about the timescales as they stand now. It's how do we improve on them? Yes. And you know, it is what it is at the moment. But if we do this work if we did end of waste kind of roadmaps for a few different applications, a few different products. Olaf's always keen to point out, but you don't do it once, so you have to do it for all the different uses. If we're going to do that, does that help speed things up in the future when it comes to end of waste applications, or are we just going to be subject to the same scrutiny all the time? In 10 years' time, if someone applies for end of waste for a biopolymer based product, are they just going to be put through the same mill, or are we able to influence that a bit, that timescale, by making it more efficient? Okay.
Yeah, I was wondering about the 7 years thing, Olaf. Was that a very early front runner of this kind of process?
Short answer, yes, it was.
Right.
So we saw it as a front runner. That's why we put on so much time and money, and that has also led to a lot of discussions with our national government, discussing ways to make it easier than the 7 years. And indeed, we were looking for, like in my short presentation, about what kind of analysis you do, what kind of laboratory you use, what kind of standards you use. And we're not there yet. And it will certainly not be really just a matter of weeks. But yes, it was the first mover, and it took us more time than the next one, I guess. It will be more efficient every time we learn. And indeed, I understand this kind of suggestion that we also involve the government in this project in a way that for the next ones it will be easier than what we're doing now. Because the government has also a lot of questions and question marks, and they don't have a really clear trajectory what they need to do from now on. And also in the UK, that I guess that for the first mover it will be a challenge. They're risk averse, of course, or not of course, but at first, yeah.
No, it's understandable, isn't it, Olaf, that they are risk averse, and our job is kind of just to help them through that a bit more and make sure they understand where the key risks are for them. Because at the moment, it's, you know, someone was talking about perception and public perception earlier.
Yes.
At the moment, it's very much everything's wrong about it, rather than just. And our job is to say, well, not everything's wrong about this. You know, that's incorrect, but you do need to worry in these key areas, and that's where we can help you.
True, but my of course was too quickly, because it's of course in terms of risk, but on the other hand, if you want to get the circular economy running, you can't tackle all the risk you can imagine. Then you know.
Yeah, we'd never get anywhere, would we? But it's,
yeah, that's what I mean. We don't have a choice. We have to start doing this, so we have to embrace the risk. But yeah, I think all of these things about standard methodology and benchmarking and having labs that are capable and people are aware of them, just even these basic things are really important to address in the near future in the UK.
Emma's got a hand up there.
Yes, it was me. Yeah, I thought also that it's of course that there's always a risk. So also when you use virgin materials, and even so, if you will do research for 10 years, there might be something unexpected with end of waste. And I think that that is something that could sink in more. Also, of course, with like PFAS problems that we have, that there's always risk. Also with virgin materials.
All right, thank you everyone for that. That was a really useful discussion. Again, Fiona, not trying to put you on the spot anymore. You've said a lot of stuff on here is useful. Is there anything that I've not called out that you could get a bit more information on that would help you? I mean, you can always follow up with me afterwards if it's something that I could go back to someone and get information on. But yeah, just whilst we're here, if that's a good use of time. It's fine if it's not, we could just move on to the next part.
Because I was busy chatting, I stopped reading. So
that's really put you on the spot then.
Yeah. No, I think we started to talk about it there, and you know, some really interesting stuff there. And like I say, there's quite a lot of this that we would expect to see. It's good to know that we're on the right page and we're going in the right direction with this. So thank you everyone for your contributions.
Cool. All right. Thanks for that. Just see one more final note popping in. I'll wait for this one to pop in, and then yeah, we can move on to the final part of the task. Oh, David said, don't forget that end of waste can be achieved for feedstocks too, in the final part. Cool. All right, I will stop sharing this mirror board.
Sorry, sorry, David. Could you just kind of elaborate on when you say that? What do you mean by feed? Because we went through an exercise, didn't we, where we spent a bit of time. I remember speaking to our colleagues in CPI saying you must analyse absolutely everything that comes into your wastewater treatment works so that you can get to an end of waste biopolymer. And we said no, that's not really the case. The end of waste is applied to the biopolymer itself. If we can get a consistent biopolymer product, then whatever comes into the wastewater treatment works doesn't matter as long as we've got the right product at the end. So it is. What do you mean by feedstocks as well? Sorry.
So it's probably not so applicable to biopolymers, but it's applicable more generally, I think, Richard. So you could choose not to go all the way to a specific product for a specific market. You could go to an intermediate feedstock that could then be supplied into multiple further markets. But then it does then amplify the data requirements because you've got then multiple exposure pathways to consider. But you don't have to go all the way to the end.
Yeah, got you. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Yeah, I'll stop sharing this Maryboard now. And then the final part, sorry, let me just get the slides back up. Give me 1 second. So as the very final part of this, it's just a quick fire outro. In your opinion, what's one thing that will make the biggest difference to achieving end of waste status for biopolymers? And I thought it's just be a quick fire comment in the chat if you can think of anything, even if it's something you've already put on the board, just as a nice sort of summary to round the workshop off. This could be anything, sort of more data, certain people involved, anything that we've discussed really.
I need to see the seconds on the comments that me and David have just put in to see who went first, because I'm not. It's quite a close call, that. When I pressed enter and looked up, I'd written the same thing as him, so I need it down to the seconds. Yes.
So I've not got any money on it, Richard.
I think this is really interesting, though, that the commercial pull versus the environmental imperative to recover resources. Do you know what I mean? It's Monday morning. I'm maybe not being very articulate, but there is.
Yeah, sorry, Fiona. It's all about money at the end, isn't it? Let's face it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. But part of the policy sway can be forcing them to think a little bit more deeply. I mean, I know like the net zero agenda and everything that we have in Scotland's very financially focused, but you can push a little bit more in policy that it's not just commercial viability. It's difficult, but I'm just saying. But yeah, that's. And nobody in this audience wants to take that on. That's fine.
It's not that nobody wants to take it. In a perfect world, yeah, we'd agree, and it'd be great. Fiona, that it was more environmentally driven, but unfortunately, the world is what it is, and it's very much about profit and loss, and very very much in the commercial stream. So I agree with you. It'd be great if there was more of the if the environmental sustainability angle could lead the way. But over the decades that I've been working, it just never turns out that way, and it just become a commercial discussion, a commercial decision.
Yeah.
Maybe one day, Fiona. Probably hopefully before I retire, just the day before, it's suddenly someone makes a decision solely on sustainability.
Over the last decade, I've seen a change from environmental perspective and financially driven also to more resource scarcity, what we see now with the Hormuz crisis and the Ukraine crisis. We're not there yet, but from that perspective, we see more pull to become more resource independent. It becomes a more important driver.
Yeah, I think so. Olaf. It's getting there, isn't it? It's more important, but at the end of the day, if it'll come down to commercial viability.
Yeah, but if the crisis continues, this will come also
Well, that's it. It will drive the commercial viability.
Yeah. Sorry, again, it's financial, Fiona. No, that's fine. So what I'm hearing is World War III would be really good for recovered resources. It would create a compelling commercial market.
Yes, World War II was fantastic for that. So yes.
Oh no, Alice, it's time to end the call.
Yeah, I did just think
we're going too far.
it's taken a bit of a turn.
Yeah, absolutely. Everyone's bringing the tanks out. Let's just like, let's just back off a little bit, everyone.
But yeah, to be fair, on that note, I think the responses have stopped coming in. So I just wanted to say thank you to everyone who's joined the call and contributed today. And also thank you very much to everyone who's presented as well. I really appreciate it. The recording from this workshop and some outcomes from it, I'll get like a little report made after this, share it with United Utilities. Once they've approved it, we'll get it uploaded onto the Spring platform. That should be within the next sort of 2 to 3 weeks. But yeah, just depends on certain timescales, but I will aim for that. If anyone has any questions or wants to get in contact with anyone after this, my email is on my team's name, so feel free to email me and I can put you in contact with the right person. But yeah, thanks a lot, everyone. Appreciate you all joining. I know it's a Monday morning and there's been some really nice stuff added to the Miro board, etc. So yeah, that's great. Thanks for your time.
Yeah, thanks, Alice.
Thanks,
Take
Alice.
care, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. That was really
Thank you.
helpful.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.